Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is another in my practice session series for the Red Hat Certified Specialist in Linux Diagnostics and Troubleshooting exam EX342. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed yet, to click the subscribe button and ring the bell when you do, so you know when new content comes available. Also, a reminder that these are my practice sessions for the exam. My exam's just over a week away, so I'm going through all of the posted objectives by Red Hat and am trying to either explain the concept behind the objective or do some exercises related to the objective. At the end of the video, I'll do a little self-assessment, and hopefully I'll feel confident with the material. Otherwise, I have about a week to do some last-minute brushing up to make sure I am prepared. That being said, these should not be used as tutorials or considered authoritative information. I try to have the information accurate because hopefully at this point in my preparation I haven't learned something wrong, but since I am still learning, I do not recommend or even acknowledge that these are tutorials or any type of authoritative information. I put these out on the internet in hopes that those that are preparing for the exam might see some of the stuff that I'm trying to do to prepare and get some ideas of things that they could do to prepare. So continuing with the diagnose and troubleshoot file system issues, we're going to look at identify and fix iSCSI issues. Now, one thing with this exam preparation that has been quite useful is the fact that in order to troubleshoot some things, you have to be able to do some basic configuration of them to begin with. And through learning that process of configuration, you can gain some maybe unintended experience with troubleshooting, and iSCSI is one of those. I haven't had to touch iSCSI in a while, and the times I've dealt with iSCSI, it's always been with some type of storage appliance. I have not actually created iSCSI targets and initiators on the Linux system prior to preparing for this exam, so I'm going to try to set up an iSCSI environment here and then break it or talk about some things that could go wrong. I have a feeling on the exam we're probably not going to have to build iSCSI from scratch. Instead, there will be an existing configuration that is somehow not working, and we have to figure out what's wrong and fix it. Of course, I could be wrong, and if the exam is solely about making an iSCSI target server and such, I might be sunk, but I have a feeling it'll be something's there, broken, and we have to repair it. So let's go to our terminal. I'm going to SSH into lab server 5 because it's the one that I'm pretty sure I have an extra block device configured on. Become root. And yes, I have VDB. Now again, I'm going to preface my practice with there's probably better ways of doing an iSCSI configuration, and I'm just getting some basic thing to work to where I can do some troubleshooting. But this in my practice has seemed to work, so we'll see if I can replicate it. Also, one thing to note, when I do these practice sessions, I'm using the least amount of notes possible. In fact, the only documentation I make available to myself is, man pages and whatever is available offline, since on the actual exam, that's all you're going to have. So I encourage you with your own preparation for Red Hat exams to do some practice sessions like I'm doing. I would give myself more time than I have. I'm a bit time constrained. I have a week before the exam. Ideally, I would be starting this, a month or so before. I think I started about 2 or 3 weeks before with this, with the final reviews, and started my recordings recently. But do these things of, go through the objectives and try to explain or figure out stuff using only the offline documentation available. And you might surprise yourself with A, how much you recall, and then B, things that you thought you knew pretty well, when it comes down to it, you might not have that on the front side of your head. So for this, we're going to install a couple of things. Actually, I think just one thing and it'll install the other, but we're going to get target CLI. This is going to be the command that we use to actually do the configurations. We see it has target CLI and a few Python things that it's going to install. And we also need to set the firewall to accept traffic on port 3260. Pretty sure that's the default port for iSCSI. Fairly sure you can configure it to whatever you want, but best to stick with default ports for this kind of thing. And it would not surprise me if on the exam, one of the things that's, quote, broken with iSCSI is the target server, which is what I'm configuring now, does not have the appropriate port made available to it. And I'll do firewall runtime to permanent. Of course, I could do that with -- permanent with the original command and then reload the firewall. Always remember any configuration stuff you do has to survive reboots. All right, so the firewall is done. And I have dev VDB. I'm just going to use the entire block device for this. And let's see if I can do the configuration. So I'm going to run target CLI. And this actually is kind of a little shell within itself. And what we're going to do, there's several different types of backstores that you can use for iSCSI. And these are ultimately the, not always block devices, but what is kind of functioning as the back-end block device on which that's being presented to the initiator that's trying to utilize the storage. And you can either use actual block devices, which we're going to do. I'm pretty sure file IO is, you can make a file and by file I mean something kind of like a QCOW image or the like that can be used to storage. pSCSI, that would be, I think, passing through to other SCSI devices. It somehow differs from block. I haven't touched it before, so I really couldn't tell you, but I think that is like a further pass through to the SCSI bus on a server. I'm not sure how useful that would be if this is on a VM. And then RAM disk, I think, is like carving out some of RAM that's effectively used as the block device. So we're going to change directory into backstores, which changing directory in this shell environment is really just moving to a different piece of the configuration. Let's go to block. Shouldn't be anything here other than block. There is a little built-in help, which is useful, but what I'm going to do is create, and I'm just going to call this test block, and the block device that I'm going to use is dev VDB. ls, we see that is there. Now I can't tell you what ALUA, or is something about LUNs, but deep dive what all of this is and means, that's something I can't tell you. And quite frankly, I have a feeling I really don't necessarily need to know that for this exam. Now, if there was some like storage specific thing, I'm sure I'd have to deep dive into that. So now that we have a backing store, we're going to go into the iSCSI piece of the configuration. And to start, we're going to create a pool. And what I'm going to do, just to make this a little bit easier, I'm actually going to open another window. I'm going to go into lab server 1, become root, and we're going to go into etc iSCSI initiator name.iSCSI. So the little IQN or worldwide name for iSCSI basically has IQN dot the year and month that you gain control of whatever domain namespace that you're going to use. In this case, this is redhat.com. This doesn't necessarily have to be accurate. I'm going to make some stuff up for my lab, but in the real world, you would want this to reflect reality. That's what the RFC wants. And then colon and some name that you give. So what I'm going to do, I'll just do the current year and month. I'll use EJS lab, and then we'll call this test. I will just call it test. Make that easy. I'm actually going to copy this because I'm going to be using that a couple of times. We'll save this file. I'll just show you the help real quick. Gives you a generalized help command. And you can also do, I think it's like help create. And that'll give you, that's the top of there. That'll give you a little bit of information about this in case, again, I don't think you're going to have to actually configure this on the exam. Of course, I could be wrong. And even if I did know, I couldn't tell you because of NDA, but there is some offline help available. So we're going to create, and we are going to call this test target. And what that's going to do is automatically create, I think this is target TPG, target portal group, which will have any access control lists or LUNs and such made. It will automatically make one for you. By default, it'll make a portal that's listening on every interface at 3260. This can be altered if needed. I guess I could see that as something that would need to be altered. What we'll do, we're going to make an access control list. I'm pretty sure you have to have at least something for access control list to be able to connect. Not 100% sure on that. So if you're a master of iSCSI, feel free to put that in the comments. I'm sure others watching this would like to know what the true deal is. So we're going to go into our portal, IQN, and the TPG. We're going to go into ACLs. Let's do another help create. This will give us some information. And so it's going to say create. We have a worldwide name, and then if we want to, we can add mapped LUNs. So what I'm actually going to do first is go into LUNs. And again, we can do help create. And this, we would create whatever storage object that we made, and then we can also give it a LUN number. Otherwise, it's going to start at 0. The add mapped LUNs from there, I'm not 100% sure. Actually, it tells us here if true, then after creating an ACL, mapped LUNs will be automatically created for all existing LUNs. Interesting. All right, so we're going to do create, and then I think tab completion works. Yep, backstores. That's that test block that we I say configured. It's more of like made iSCSI aware. And I'm just going to press enter. And that has created LUN 0. So if I go back, I'm going to go into ACLs. And we're going to create. And this is the worldwide name for the initiator that's going to try to connect. This is the initiator will have this name. It tries to connect, and if there's an access control list that matches it, it will allow the iSCSI connection to occur. And just doing that, it associated it with mapped LUN 0, which all of this looks good. You can set like chat passwords and such. I'm not going to do that. Again, I don't think the configuring of the target is going to be a thing. Of course, I may be wrong, but we'll see. I might try to like simulate if there's a configuration mismatch and see what happens. If you do CD, you get kind of your tree view of everything. You can kind of look and see if it's okay. So we have our block device, portal, it's listening on everything at 3260. We've said a LUN, which I guess you could probably have multiple LUNs in the block device. I haven't done multiple LUNs with this, so I couldn't tell you. And then our access control list that says this initiator can use this LUN, and by default it's in read-write mode. So I'm just going to go back to the root, and we'll exit. That's going to automatically save the configuration, and we need to start and enable the target service. All right, that looks good. SSTOLPN, we should have something listening on 3260 TCP, and we do. And firewall, man, I think I can do list all. And we see that we're allowing port 3260, and the only profile we have is active. So the initiator, the target should be done at this point. So we go over to the initiator. So if we need to configure this, there's a couple of things that we need to do. First, we need to discover any targets that are available to us. So we can do that with the iSCSI admin command. The mode that we're using is discover, and there's a couple different modes, which there's some man pages about this. The type that we're going to discover is called, or I'm pretty sure it's called send targets. I misspelled this. Now I should get my tab completion. There are other types to do. I couldn't tell you what all of them mean. I know the send targets is, maybe for lack of a better phrase, the basic thing of, hey, I just want to use this. But unfortunately, I'm not speaking from a position of strength. I might try to familiarize myself with some of the other targets, even if I don't fully understand them, just be aware enough of them to make it through the exam. I may do that over the next week. And we're going to specify our portal, and that's going to be labserver5.ejslab.com, port 3260. And this should, famous last words in IT, discover our target. No, mode -1 is not supported. So where did I make my mistake? Probably with this. Oh, discovery. Thought it was just discover. Well, okay, that looks better. I guess -1 is the value for like not a valid value. Now this, I think I can do iSCSI ADM node. Yeah, and that will show you the targets you found. This ultimately gets stored, I believe, in var lib iSCSI. Yeah, that's ultimately where this information gets stored at, so it stays persistent. But all right, so now that we have our test target, what we need to do is to authenticate to this test target. So for that, we will use iSCSI add ADM. The mode now is going to be node -T to give it the target, and this is our target. We need to tell it. I'm not sure if I actually have to tell it the portal, because I think it's learned that from just discovering the target, but I'm going to do it anyway. So that's lab server 5 agslab.com 3260 and --login, which I think you can do just -L for that. And it was successful. Yay. All right. So if I do ls block, we now see an SDA, which that was not there before. This is representing our iSCSI device. And I think I can do iSCSI ADM-M session, perhaps. Yes, and that will show that we have this session active with iSCSI. So this is all good. We like this. So I'm actually going to log out of this, and we're going to break a couple of things. If I do iSCSI ADM session, that should be gone. And if I do ls block, we see that SDA is gone. Okay, so let's say, oh, by the way, one thing that you need to do, yeah, iSCSI D is running. You need to enable iSCSI D. Forgot about that, because again, stuff has to survive a reboot. If you were to, or let's do this. All right, so let's say that with our iSCSI config, we did not have test as our name. I'm just going to add some text to that. And I'm going to, actually, since I've made that change, I need to restart the service. All right, so that's restarted. Let's try, I'm lazy. I'm just going to up my way back to the command that I want. Let's try to log in again. This should fail, and it does. It gripes about authentication failure. One thing you can do is run this command with debug, and you can do several layers. Eight's a lot, but it gives you a lot of information here. Let me clear my screen first, and we'll do the login with debug 8. So this is showing you a lot of good information. A couple of things to take note of. One, make sure that this is what you expected to be the actual iSCSI target. Another is this authentication method. Notice we have none and none, and MD5, in particular none and none. I have not configured, other than just an access control list, I haven't configured any type of like chat password and such. So if this is not a matching thing, that will fail. You can have the initiator name correct all day, but if authentication is not matching, it's simply not going to work. So this doesn't really tell us a whole lot of good things, but we know that if there is probably some type of ACL involved and there's something not matching. So let me go back and change the iSCSI initiator name back to normal. So we know that configuration is going to work. Use Vim this time. iSCSI.conf. So there are several settings that you can work with here. Generally want that to be automatic. And what I'm going to do is enable CHAP authentication. And for the session that I want, I think this is it, because you can have, it's like you can have one and two-way CHAP with this. It's kind of an interesting thing. That's something that I might spend a little bit of time looking into to make sure that I have a little bit better understanding of what each of those things are. And I would encourage you as well to create some scenarios of things to break. We'll pretend like I have that, and I have my monkey123 with the capital M for security. All right, so we'll restart iSCSI, and we're going to try to log in again, but without debug, just to see what the result is. This should fail. Go figure. It's successful. All right, I'm going to log out, and I'm going to log in with D8 just to see what this looks like. I did not expect that to work. I expected that to fail. Did I not save the configuration? Because I expected the authentication method to not be none for that. Okay, so let's log out again. Let's go back to iSCSI.conf. I didn't do Vim, so I'm going to get my nice pretty colors. No, I uncommented it. Maybe this is what I needed. Yeah, initiator versus the targets. So even though I had said, yes, enable chap, I don't have any values there. So can I spell my own name right? All right, so we got that. Let's see if there's anything else I might need to turn on. Probably not. The one nice thing about this particular configuration file is well commented, so you have some bonus offline documentation. All right, so restart iSCSI. So all that looks good. Okay, so now let's try to log in and watch this work. Well, my attempt to break it has failed. So I think something I might do, this is currently a Wednesday night, I might do this weekend, is see if I can make and break authentication. Or, let me log out one more time and let's do a login D8. I'm not sure why that auth method is still 0. I wonder if that's because I need to rediscover my target. Let's try that. Okay, so let's see if I can remember how to get rid of a target. First of all, I got to log out, and iSCSI admin. I think I need discovery database, or just, I think it was discovery database. Send targets. I think it's discovery DB. The capital T for target. Portal. Then O for operation and delete. Nope, that is not it. All right, let's take a look at man real quick. See if I can get a reference for this. Yeah, discovery DB. I'll bet dash N is what I need for that. Let's see what dash N refers to. That didn't give us a whole lot. Maybe it's just dash discovery is what I need to do. This is an explanation of some of the different discovery types. When in doubt, take a look at some examples that can help us. I'm going to do just discover or discovery. See if I can delete from here. All right. Didn't get any errors. It's usually a good sign. No record found. So perhaps that's what I needed. All right. Let me restart the service just one more time. Let's do our discovery. Type is send targets. All right. That has been rediscovered. Now let's try to authenticate. I'm being lazy and just using my up arrow. Okay, that failed. So let's try to log in again with debug set to 8. Okay, so now this is what I expected to see. Notice that it is trying to use CHAP authentication, and what was being presented is none. Or I think it's either what's presented or what was discovered as a part of finding the target. But either way, to fix this, what we should be able to do is change that authentication method. So etc iSCSI dconf. What I'm going to do is just first comment out the authentication method. I'm not going to change the passwords just to see if that alone will fix this. It's one of the key tenets of troubleshooting. You make one change at a time, right? So systemctl restart iSCSI. We'll try the login again, which I might have to rediscover the target Yeah, I'm going to have to rediscover the target. So, get a little bit of practice with this. Discovery, I have to do the full FQDN because I'm pretty sure I have host name resolution. No, I do, because that record had the fully qualified domain name. One thing I'm curious, if you had multiple targets from the same portal, how that would be handled. It might be worth looking up. Oh, lab server 5. Okay, now let's rediscover it. And let's try to log in. All right, let's look at D8. Okay, so I guess I do have to turn those things off, because rediscovering it didn't make any difference. So I guess that would make sense if it's if it's sending credentials or looking for credentials and there are none to be dealt with, then that could be a thing. We saw that the none for authentication type was made. Okay, restart iSCSI D. Try to log in. Still failing. D8. Still trying to pass, so I have to rediscover it again. There's probably a better way of doing this. Getting lazy now. And then we'll go ahead and do D8 for the login. Okay, now it's successful. So basically each time, that seems annoying. It seems like I might be doing something wrong with that. But the important thing, and I think this is probably true for the exam as well, Red Hat's not always concerned with how you do something unless the objective is explicitly saying, using this tool, do this thing. But they're more concerned with, does it work? And, is it I guess a reasonable configuration? So there's our SDA. So this worked, but I have a feeling there's probably a better way for me doing what needs to be done. But ultimately for the assessment, main things I would think to look for with iSCSI, can the traffic pass firewall? Of course, I could have turned off the firewall and tried all that, and it basically would have timed out trying to connect. Are appropriate services running? iSCSI D on the initiator side, the target service on the target side, and does your initiator name match the configured ACL? Is authentication configured the same for both sides? That kind of thing. So I think I would probably be able to deal with this on the exam. Hopefully you found the video useful. If you did, make sure you do click like. I want to thank returning subscribers again for watching another video. And again, invite anyone, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, to click that subscribe button. Thank you for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you the next time.